Sometimes I feel like no one understands my feelings. So, I'm on a mission to find out, can AI understand me better than my friends can?
So the prompt is going to be this. I want you to act like a diagnostic assistant or coach. Ask me some questions that will help you understand me fully so that you can give me useful, realistic recommendations. Let's see how it goes.
AI starts out by asking me, what do I do when I wake up in the morning, and how do I feel?
When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you actually do? Not what you wish you did. I lay in bed for 15 minutes, check Twitter, look at any messages, and then start doing, drink some water, and then go onto the computer and do some light work. So that's the first question. Do I feel rested? I do usually feel rested. Feel rested when I wake up. But let's say around 2, I start to get kind of tired and want to rest or nap. In the morning, I'm in between calm and motivated and anxious and motivated. I'm gonna also add that actually what I think is going on is that when I'm anxious in the morning, it's because I realize that I want to do a little bit more, right? I think anxious comes from feeling like I have a lot of things to do that I want to do, want to get done.
I gave ChatGPT a little bit of extra data by talking about how anxious I was, and so now AI is starting to ask me about that anxious behavioral pattern that I get into in the mornings.
When you feel anxious, that anxious motivated, what do you usually do with it? I think that if I'm being really realistic, I think that I probably get a little distracted, right? I'm helping it a little bit. Maybe I'm trying to compensate by reading more information. What I'm probably not doing enough on those anxious days is to really look at my list and prioritize and attack it. It's almost like when I'm anxious, I subconsciously have more to-dos that I'm making in the moment, and those which don't get recorded, right? Which don't get recorded.
AI starts to ask me about the distractions that I lean into when I get into that anxious state.
I think that this is really, really interesting. You've nailed something big. Anxiety drives mental task generation, but not always task capture. So you're working off of a vague, ever-growing cloud of pressure instead of a grounded list, which makes it easier to get distracted or spin up. I mean, I think that's super, super accurate, actually. What kind of distractions? I'll generally look at Twitter. And maybe I'll surf the internet. What I really want to do right now is have something that actually records my screen. I'll surf the internet for a bit, right? I'll read articles or make food.
Now I get asked something a little bit unexpected. Is AI about to get super existential on me?
I think that this is really, really interesting. So my distractions are info consumption, like that's really correct, and low effort dopamine. That's very, very true. So this tells me someone who values ideas and learning it. That's true. Avoid emotional friction or decision fatigue. I think I definitely tried. I think that avoiding decision fatigue might be kind of true. It's like I use info as fuel, but nothing happens with it, right? If I had a totally free day, right? I'd exercise. Maybe take a boxing class or something, right? I'd eat good food for all 3 meals. I'd go to a coffee shop or work on a rooftop. I'd go to shopping and work or work on a rooftop. If I could focus on a book to wind down the evening, I would, but in all likelihood, I might play a game or do some more work at a leisurely pace. This is my ideal type of day. That's actually like every birthday that I do. I do that. I don't really drink or party on my birthday. Like I definitely, for the last 3 or 4 years, on my birthday, I always make sure that I go to the gym. I like autonomy with a bit of structure. That's true. I don't need full on it exactly. I do like my work and just not the pressure of it. I mean, the pressure comes with it, but perhaps the pressure creates some sort of disarray. And I recharge through environment and vibe. That's so true.
Now, AI starts to ask me, what's something that's important to you, but your actions say otherwise? Are you calling me a hypocrite, bro?
What is something you say is important to you, but your actual behavior suggests it might not be? That something's blocking you from investing in it. I'd say creating social media content. Content is important. I think that something is blocking me from investing it, and that is that I don't have a strong muscle of sharing everything and sharing things that aren't perfect. Right? So I'd say that this is probably one of my number one blockers. Another blocker or thing that's important is asking people for favors. Like right in the work department of life. I don't know what these are, but I do feel uncomfortable, right? Like asking too much or pushing too much sometimes. Let's see what this says. Here's some of our blockers, lack of sharing. Yeah. Classic for high agency folks who value. Yeah, these are classic for high agency folks who value autonomy. You're aware about your blockers, perfectionism, lack of sharing, momentum, discomfort with perceived taking. These are classic for high agency folks who value autonomy and don't want to feel needy or exposed. Not sharing means people don't know you're building something. Not asking means you're limiting the surface area for luck. You're not missing skills, you're bumping up against emotional friction, vulnerability, perceived risk, and visibility. Yeah, and when it comes to this whole idea of not being afraid to kind of ask, I also think that it comes to when you're doing product validation, things like that, maybe I don't ask enough people, or I think I just need to try more.
Now, ChatGPT is starting to ask me about fulfillment and how I'm achieving that in my day-to-day life.
Let's keep going with the prompt. So when's the last time you felt deeply fulfilled, proud, or on fire with what you were doing, and what it made you feel that way? I'd say that recently, I'd say that generally the last few weeks have made me feel fulfilled, right? Right, I made some real progress towards identifying the right business ideas, the right way to manifest them, partnering, with the right people, right? Had lots of conversations, right? Conversations with people who inspired new ideas. I felt as a as someone who hasn't pursued entrepreneurship in a while, this has felt like I'm taking real steps, and that these will actually result in something. I'd also say connected with a community, right? I've really started to connect with people that really drive me. That's huge. You're describing forward motion, aligned collaboration, idea flow, and real-world traction. I would say that those are 100% what drive me. This is crazy, guys. So it's not all of just thinking about building, it's being in the game. That's 100%. You thrive when there's momentum, people, and potential outcomes. That's exactly right. I would add that some real outcomes would be great. But yeah, and it sounds like entrepreneurship feels like the right thing now. It's not just an interest, but a calling that has structure. That's very, very true.
Now ChatGPT is starting to ask me about the destructive patterns that I fall into.
What's a sneaky pattern you fall into when things are going well? Some way you might unconsciously self-sabotage, slow down yourself, or lose momentum. I think at a certain point, right, I feel a need to rest, and I think that this comes sooner than people talk about, right? Than people recognize. It could be after, right, 6 days of working in a row, and then take one day off, then 5, then take 2 days, right? And this, and this pattern of decreasing effort and more required rest starts to take hold. It's a very large parentheses. The rest can sometimes spiral, not spiral me negative, in a non-productive fashion. Let's say into a way where I'm resting, but I feel like I'm no longer working enough. I'm no longer working enough. I definitely say that also a lack of cooking, when I'm not exercising, that is. But I think that this is probably the biggest one. This causes me to have less momentum, fewer wins, and this lack of momentum and wins can like make me begin to question things again. If it's worth it. I don't just burn out, I spiral, not because I'm lazy, but because your rest lacks closure. It doesn't feel earned or structured. A classic high output, high sensitivity pattern. So I'm someone who needs regular wins to stay confident. I would kind of say that. Needs rest that feels intentional. And I'm vulnerable to existential rumination when idle too long. That's really, really strong wording. I hope that we're gonna ask our friend here a little more about this soon.
Now, the big kahuna. ChatGPT asks me, what is the one thing that I would upgrade about myself?
If I can instill one mindset, habit, or internal shift instantly, like a software upgrade, what would it be? Just what would you change if I could flip that switch? I'd double the amount of time. I'd say I'd double the amount of time I could work. I'm gonna say this. I'd make it so that if I don't know how to do something, I could more quickly break down, reverse engineer, and figure out what to do and stick to it. I think that I probably fall into that pattern where I think right now when faced with the unknown, I probably fall into that pattern unconsciously where I, surf the web, click around, right? And it's almost like I research about it, but maybe I don't do it, or I don't even research about it. Or I don't even do that and just do something else that I need to do, lower priority, right? That's actually the number one thing that I'd work on. I would also like to just double the amount of hours I can work, but yeah. I need activation in uncertainty. I would say that this is very true. Exactly. All right, so I start strong. What I've learned, you don't need more information. You need activation in uncertainty. Exactly. When you don't know what to do, your system goes, let me gather more inputs instead of let me try something scrappy and iterate. It's a way of avoiding friction disguised as research. What I've learned, your 360-degree snapshot. Energy and rhythm. You start strong but fade mid-afternoon. You work in bursts, then crash without closure. And you need structured rest to avoid spiraling. Okay. I think that maybe makes sense, by the way, because when I had a full-time job that had clear days off and days on, and even though in the long run, talking years, I got kind of burned out and tired, I would say that on a quarterly basis or yearly basis, I was generally pretty good with the rhythm. With the rhythm of a 9-to-5 firm. Mental patterns. You're driven by curiosity and ideas. You crave progress, but info overload or perfectionism can paralyze action. So yeah, I crave progress, and I think information. I think that's all true. I think that I'll ask it what to do about the mental patterns, but I also think that if we ask it, how do I fix this activation and uncertainty, then I think that we might get, a solution that we're looking for. Okay. Emotional landscape. You're motivated and anxious coexist. You're proud of your work, but doubt creeps in fast when momentum slows. Yeah, and I wouldn't say doubt creeps in like so fast, but I think maybe I painted the picture wrong, because I don't doubt myself, but sometimes I doubt that. I don't doubt my own ability, but maybe that the approach or the market segment that I'm going for example, isn't the right one. For my values, you care deeply about creation, relationships, autonomy, and impact. You want your work to mean something and lead somewhere. So I think that's all really true. That's all true, that is, yeah. Avoidance pattern, you sidestep discomfort, public sharing, asking for help, taking messy first steps, and then compensate with productive distractions, yeah. And I'm like aware of that too, and I'm working on that, right? I'm probably not going to edit this YouTube video that much. We'll try to find the right balance, but err on the side of shipping this video. Motivation triggers, so community, true. Clarity, true. Aligned partners, true. Early wins, true. When I'm in the arena, I thrive. When I'm alone with fuzzy next steps, I stall. That's so true. Okay. So recommendations: build a daily small win ritual. Start with a 15-minute task that creates visible output. Okay, let's see how that works, right? Design my rest. Pick one day off a week, and let's make it intentional and aesthetic and logged. Interesting about the idea of logged. Practice doing before Googling. Yeah, let's just do that. I think that's like a really good, and that'll help me be a better coder as well. Create a launch imperfect challenge. Post or share something half-baked daily for 14 days. That is so crazy and interesting. That is really, really creative. Half-baked or daily. Let's think about this. Have a help ask quota. Each week ask for 2 favors. Really, really interesting. That sounds like a cognitive behavioral therapy, a CBT technique in some way. Name the spiral. When I start drifting, call it out. This is the spiral. I know this is the one. This is definitely also probably CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. I haven't done that before, but I think it is. So that was really interesting. We got the insights. So we know that we need activation and uncertainty. I think this is probably one of the number one things. So with activation instead of uncertainty, this is my number one, right? Number one thing I want to fix. So that's done with doing before Googling, right? And combined with name the spiral. Or is there anything other practice that you recommend implement to do this? All right, so this is starting to get, I'm starting to not like the output here, just it's really long, but let's see. To build full activation and uncertainty, guess, act, refine. That makes sense though. Try to figure out what it is, act, and then refine, right? So I think maybe one of the things that I can do as soon as I reach this point of uncertainty, I pull out my notebook or Excalibur, and I'll start just writing down what I think the steps to do are. I think that it's this idea of write it down and don't think and search. Writing is the first action. Uncertainty log is interesting. What did I feel uncertain about today? What did I do? What would I do next time? I think that's really, really cool. And the starter stack for any problem when you're stuck. Break it down into 3 dumb steps. Draw it. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Well, guys, pretty interesting. I think that overall it was pretty accurate. I think that it maybe over-diagnosed me a little bit when it came to the energy spiral part, about my kind of destructive pattern a little bit. But I really, really like the recommendations that it gave me. The big ones that I'm going to take away are the small wins practice every day in the morning. I think that's like a really, really good thing to put me into the zone. I think that it also spoke about, it didn't use these words directly, but context switching. And I think that I have some interesting tactics to now switch context a little bit faster, or if I'm not in a routine of productivity, I think that through using these practices, I'm going to be able to glide back and build momentum a little bit faster. And the biggest thing is about using notebooks and just acting immediately. Like, stop planning so much when I'm running into a situation that's new or I haven't done something before. Just start doing it, and honestly, just do a crappy thing. I think that's the one of the big takeaways that I'm gonna implement from this. Hope you all try this prompt out too. Let me know how it goes. Enjoy.